Okay, so the drug development process in an overview is actually given also on the FDA website, and there's a great illustration that I won't go through in detail, but it starts off with a kind of a roadmap of where things begin. So you all know that we start with the laboratory where various different compounds or devices are developed that might have therapeutic properties. And so you begin by doing research to understand the basic science behind these potential therapies, and then you apply them in controlled settings, typically to animals, mice or dogs, as we heard last time. And based on the results of those animal models and other studies, you get ready to take it into humans. Now, this is a very big step because obviously once you start experimenting with people, you're at another level of seriousness and oversight. So before you can do any clinical experimentation, you have to put together an application, an IND, Investigational New Drug application. You have to file it with the FDA. They review it, and if they give you approval, you will then be allowed to start experimenting with people, but not before you get their approval. And in many cases, after they meet, they will give you advice on how to change certain things. And the FDA is obviously a repository of an enormous amount of information, so it's probably a good idea to take their advice seriously. After the IND is reviewed and approved, you then can take it into the clinic. And then we know that there are 3 different phases: phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Phase 1 is typically a small study of between 50 and 100 people. And in that phase, you're really looking for just the kind of dosages that are safe. You're not really looking for efficacy, although in some cases you can actually see evidence of that. But really, it's maximum tolerated dose is what you're looking for. And after you establish what the maximum tolerated dose is, at that point, you'll move into phase 2, which is maybe 100 to 500 people. And in this case, you're now looking for biological activity. In other words, does the drug do anything for the disease that you're looking for? And if it shows promise in phase 2, at that point, you bring it to phase 3, which is a much larger group of people, typically 1,000 to 5,000. And here you're looking for clinical effectiveness. Is this something that can actually help a lot of people? And obviously, as you go through these different phases, more and more people are involved. So you want to do it in a stepwise fashion to make sure that you understand the safety profile of the drug or device that you're using. If all of that goes well, if at the end of phase 3 with 1,000 to 5,000 patients, you are seeing clinical effectiveness in a substantial fraction of the people that you're testing, at that point you can file an application called an NDA, a new drug application. And the FDA will decide in 60 days whether or not to allow that application to be filed. And if it does, it then reviews the application, meaning it reviews all of your data, and it'll actually go out to these various different sites that have done these clinical trials and ask for the records to see exactly what patients were examined, what the findings were, to check to make sure that what you've reported is accurate. That's a very lengthy process, requires a lot of people. The typical target amount of time it takes to do that is about 10 months. In certain cases, it can be done faster, and we'll talk about that. Our speakers will talk about that a little bit later on. And if all of that is done, you get approval, you then start marketing the drug, and phase 4 is sometimes a requirement where the FDA will ask you to study how patients are responding after you start marketing the drug and a large number of individuals are taking it.